Alrighty, welcome to our work session on July 22nd. This is about the council priorities and work plan. City Manager, would you like to kick us off?
Definitely, and thank you so much for meeting an hour before your regular meeting. I'm very excited to present to you the staff, the senior management staff's efforts at trying to implement, well, to operationalize implementation of your priorities. So if you can pull up the document, I want to, as I'm going to try to set context here just so that we're all on the same page, just as a very quick reminder. So on April 1st, you all had a retreat because several of your members were new, and you hired Dave Mercier to be the moderator of that retreat. You remember that he ran you through a SWOT analysis and took 4 or 5 hours to do that. Part of that analysis, besides strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, was to, as you identified categories or areas in each of those 4 areas, then you also, as a group, came up with some priorities, and you voted. You got at least 4, so those were priorities based. In the document that you see before you and that we've sent out to you, those are composed in the left column there. Number 1 was your biggest priority. Now the parentheses, I'm just trying to orient everybody to that sheet that that document. Under weakness, that was part of his SWOT analysis weakness. That's where you all came up with that. Does that make sense? So you'll see like 1 and 2 were weaknesses, but you prioritized them as your number 1 and your number 2. Does that make sense? I think number 3 might be a strength or an opportunity or whatever, but that's where people have asked, well, what do you mean weakness? And that's per the SWOT analysis. Once you all went through and came up with 8 priorities, then there was still time left, and he said, well, why don't we take a few minutes and go back to those priorities and let's just brainstorm on next steps, and that you might think would be some bullet points underneath that priority. And so that is where the red came from. And so you didn't vote on those. So those are not in terms of priorities. Those were just free thrown out ideas from you all. Does that make sense? So the black 8 were your 8 priorities, and then you came up with red next steps, just free throw from whoever threw it up there. Okay, so following your work, about 3 weeks following that, 2 weeks following that, we had a senior management retreat and had your work and spent 3 or 4 hours trying to put together what we thought would be our best efforts at addressing your black and or red. And we came up with a long list. And as we fine-tuned that list, we said, some of these things are staff, but some of them really, even though they were on our list in our brainstorming effort, we thought they're really probably better served by council. So then we separated a few of our lists and came up with green. So the middle column still is work from the city senior management staff's retreat as a way to implement your priorities, but we felt like let's present it to them as something maybe they could do, even though we came up with it and we think you'll support it or whatever. But so that's green, our recommendations, and blue is then what staff thinks we can do. Does all that make sense? Okay, so we're all on the same page. So I've recently gone through that same review and context setting with our own management, because several of our key positions, our public works director and our DCD director, are new since they weren't part of our retreat, and so I've been updating them on that whole process. And as a part of that update in our senior management team, I was reminded by Lindsay, who's new but has a lot of experience with this process. She reminded all of us, do you know that the comp plan really takes into account a lot of the council's priorities and your suggested work plan? And I said, so tell me more. And she did. She filled up a whiteboard and was really good at connecting those dots. So I have asked her to take a moment or two to start this session off before we start working our way down to give an overview of how that ties in. We're just trying to show all the ways that the master plans and the comp plan and all of these things work together. Okay, so if you'll allow me, I'd like to turn the time over to Lindsay to walk you through her schematic.
Thank you, Matt. Lindsay Zamel, Community and Economic Development Director. Thank you tonight, councilors. So in front of you, we have a very small but generalized schematic that shows how Washington State's Growth Management Act. Are your computers on?
That's not showing you that? Oh.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I thought it was supposed to be in front of you. Is there a way to make that happen? Okay.
That is okay. I will not take it personal. I don't know if I need the mic. I do? Okay, for the record. So Washington State Growth Management Act requires cities to update their comprehensive plan every 10 years in what's called a major periodic update. The State Growth Management Act has a variety of elements that are required, and they are required on two aspects: to be concurrent and consistent and involve public process throughout the whole project. The SQUIM Comprehensive Plan is the first output under the City of SQUIM following within the state laws of Washington under the Growth Management Act. So on the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see that we have land use, housing, capital facilities, utilities, transportation, shoreline, essential public facilities, tribal planning, climate change and resiliency, economic development, and parks and recreation. All of those will be elements of the City of SQUIM's 2025 comprehensive plan. The system plans that my peer Paul works very closely on with you in regards to our sewer, wastewater, stormwater, parks planning documents, those fall within the scope of the comprehensive plan. So the larger policies in the comprehensive plan, the systematic implementation of how we're meeting those policies in the comp plan, those are in the system plans. And then
often referred to as master plans.
And then the implementation comes through your annual budget and the zoning regulations that are in the SQUIM Municipal Code for development. So that is kind of a high level. And as I reviewed a lot of your elements, there were just a lot of them that were like, well, we can address and adopt policies and look at policies that look into some of this when the comprehensive plan is in front of council, but also public participation is occurring now. So with that, I'll conclude my high level.
No, thank you so much. So she reminded me that really the comp plan is the umbrella document or process which drives city council policy, because you weigh in on that and approve that. And then, of course, your city policy drives operations. So it was just nice to have her remind us of the process and connecting the dots. So with that, let's jump into the document. If you can jump back to the actual document that we prepared for you here. Yes. Yes.
Band required elements. Is that the list? Oh, thank you. Is that the list of that was on the right-hand side of that screen?
Correct. That was the required elements under the RCW.
Yeah, and so that's not unique to SQUIM. That's any municipality that's doing a comp plan review is looking at those elements.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Those I think they're chapters of the comp plan or close to. They're all the categories that need to be addressed per state statute.
Good. Yeah. Thank you. I really like that kind of a drawing. That helps.
Perfect. Okay, so now we're back to, oh, excuse me.
previous page, I don't see a lot of planning with the tribe in our present comprehensive plan. I have a copy of it and I don't see that. So how did it get here?
Yeah, so legislature's made a lot of changes on what needs to be in the Growth Management Act since the last major periodic update that was required in around 2015, 2016.
And they
So-
added that,
Yes, and they
but
added
not the school system?
They added climate change. Schools fall under utilities. The utilities section is for private and or special purpose
Right, but I'm not
districts.
talking about climate change. The word above it, tribal planning, is not in our existing current comp plan.
Correct. So
The state added it?
legislation amended the RCW 3670A
Uh-huh.
to require that for this next major periodic update.
Okay, I did not know.
Yeah,
Thank you.
so the GMA is a living law that will see changes, which is why they mandate that you have to update your comp plan every 10 years to catch up with the law changes that have occurred.
Got it. Thank you.
Great questions, and thank you. I appreciate the dynamic interaction here. So knowing that we have 8 of your priorities to address and we have multiple things to share with you tonight, let's jump into your first priority, which is infrastructure needs to catch up with growth. And that came under the weakness category and then some next steps. Because of it being infrastructure and with the highlight that you just received from Lindsay on how comp plan goes into master plans, I thought I would turn a few minutes over. Paul is prepared to walk you through our blue, which are categories of what we think we can do to address your number 1. So Paul, do you want to?
Thank you. Good evening. So the first thing I want to do is I really want to talk about the statement that infrastructure needs to catch up with growth. I want to be clear is that in most jurisdictions, including SWIM, growth pays for growth. And this is not something that most people fully appreciate. How does that happen? Well, we have general facility charges on water and wastewater. It's a one-time fee on new property development to bear their equitable share of the system costs. In other words, they're buying into a pre-existing system, so they're paying their fair share of that which is already there and they're using the capacity for. We also have impact fees. These are one-time fees on new development to pay for impacts within the areas they affect. So how does that work? Well, you've got localized impacts and you've got more global, community-wide impacts. We require development to do their improvements that are directly on the streets and utilities where their development is at. But we also recognize that 600 homes in one area are going to have an impact on other parts of the community. It's a tangential impact. It's not a direct. It's really hard to say you are causing this exact impact. So the way jurisdictions get through that is by having impact fees. We have transportation impact fees. We have water capacity fees, GFCs, and wastewater capacity fees, GFCs, which we use for improving our system based on their relative impact to it. They're not buying in, they're paying for growth in our system that they're contributing to by development. And we have our park impact fees. So right away, we've got a couple different ways we make sure that growth pays for growth within our community. I want to talk a little bit about the master plans that Lindsay was talking about. Master plans, also known as system plans, depending on what jurisdiction you're in. Depends on whether you're talking about transportation or whether you're parks, whether you're talking about water or wastewater. Typically, these master plans are developed on a schedule. Depending upon the nature of the work, it's either a 6 or a 10-year, up to 10-year cycle. I have seen some on the stormwater that were 20 years, and frankly, there's no mandate on a frequency for stormwater. I wish there was. 20 years is way too long. 6 to 10 years is usually pretty normal, especially since you've got a lot of changes that occur. Right now, we have our wastewater plan, master plan. We are finalizing the scoping for having that updated. The transportation plan, as you know, is already actively being worked on by Transpo Group. We had an open house for the community a couple of weeks ago. The water master plan has already been completed and it's into the State Department of Health for review and approval. It's been that way for about 18 months. They're no hurry. And then the park master plan was completed a couple of years ago. Each one of these will have follow-on work that may be required, requested, et cetera. On the wastewater side, for example, we also have a SCADA master plan, that's supervisory controlled and data acquisition. I had to look that up because someone asked that question to the last meeting. Every time I think about that, I have to look it up because I don't use it on a daily basis. But it is important because it is basically the control system to make sure that all of our equipment on the wastewater side and the water side, if you have two systems, that talk to each other. So you can sit in one location, look at the data, and modify your pump system, modify your wells on how they're producing, et cetera. Excuse me. A master plan really is all about identifying your existing infrastructure, talking about the deficiencies you may have. How old is your infrastructure, different components? Do you have wear and tear? Are various assets reaching the end of their life and therefore you need to start planning for a replacement? Looks at what your projected future growth is based upon what you're required to plan for in the master plan for businesses and residences, and looks at your system and says, can it accommodate that? If not, what do we as a jurisdiction need to do to account for that? Do we have lift stations that need to be upgraded? Do we need to do improvements to the water reclamation facility, et cetera? It helps us establish a list of high priorities and policies. A good example on the transportation side is a policy which is we want to provide for long-term non-motorized uses across the city to enhance opportunities for recreation, commuting, and shopping without needing a motorized vehicle. Another one, which is less specific but equally important, is we want to pursue funding for an east-west corridor to alleviate traffic impacts on Washington Street. Well, we know where we're looking at. There's a couple different corridors from the master plan, which comes from the um, comp plan that helps guide our work. It's also a mechanism for determining annual maintenance programs. The Pavement Condition Index, the PCI, which was recently completed last year, tells us what our road conditions are like. It gives us an idea of where we need to focus our maintenance work, where we need to look at those roads that are already past the point where you can do maintenance activities on. Now we have to start planning for long-term replacement of those. It also tells us what roads are doing really well, where we need to make sure we keep them doing really well. Gives us an opportunity to develop schedules for replacement of AC water line, as well as rating assessments and replacement for sewer lines. Each one of these master plans requires public input. So you've got the comp plan, then you've got the master plans, and then eventually you get to what we bring before to the city council for approval every year, which is our CIP work, which is an opportunity to show how they're being funded. It's an opportunity to modify components of the master plans and the comp plan because it's going through council review and public hearings on it. It also gives us an opportunity to recommend a funding strategy for each one of the disciplines: water, sewer, transportation, and parks. One of the items up here to kind of talk about is how do we fund our streets? And really, funding of street work is one of the more complex minefields to walk through, if you will. Um, we have, real quick here, motor vehicle fuel tax, federal aid funding programs that include the Surface Transportation Program, the Highway Safety Improvement Program, the Transportation Alternatives Program, the Reconnecting Communities Pilot Program, Safe Streets for All Program, the Promoting Resilient Operations for Transformative, Efficient, and Cost Savings Program called PROTECT. Yes, that's a federal one. You can tell by the length of it. And the Rebuilding American Infrastructure with Sustainability and Equity, RAISE. Those last two are federal programs. They're usually sent to organizations that have a big dollar value. SQUIM and the surrounding communities were successful in getting a RAISE grant because it was a partnership. And so we have some funding coming to us. Then the Transportation Improvement Board, there's a number of funding sources there. We have our own city funding sources. Our REIT funding, general fund transfers into our work. The Transportation Benefit District, general obligation bonds. And then there's more programs available in the Washington State Department of Transportation. And we have a lot of additional funding available for our water and wastewater and parks. It's a myriad of grant funding opportunities. Them sometimes are open for applications at any time. Other times they're open only specific years. Sometimes the funding is available shortly after you're given the award. Sometimes you get the funding in a year. Sometimes you get the funding in 2 years. Sometimes on the federal, you have 5 or 10 years in order to utilize the funding. So it is a complex, and I'm really thankful we have Megan, who's keeping track of all of this, to help us across the Public Works Department to identify the funding and the funding availability. ADA, one last thing, the Americans with Disability Act, that is a report that was completed last year. It is part of our budget request where we're talking about doing sidewalk repairs, we're talking about curb ramps. It's also where we're looking to that to go after state grants this year to replace a number of our curb ramps. Those are like a no-brainer as far as the state goes. They're identified in your ADA plan. They're deficient. Here's your money. That's what we're hoping. So that's what we're going after. So there's an awful lot of work that we do across our part of the organization that talks about planning, more planning, and then implementing the plan. Most of our work is done because of the master plans, the system plans, which all come out of the Growth Management Act and the comprehensive plan. And if I haven't dazzled you with enough on grant funding, just let me know. I'll send you an extensive list. But at this point, I think I'm going to pass it back over to the city manager and let him continue.
Thank you, Paul. Amazing. As you can tell, we live in a subject matter expert environment here. And I asked him to speak only because infrastructure is under weakness, and so our retreat said, I wonder if we should have some work sessions for council so that you all can drill down. And this is just a suggestion. Anything you have questions about relative to our infrastructure, we have the subject matter expertise and the master plans that we have hired out to consultants on to be able to answer all those questions. We're not sure we feel like it's a weakness, but you all did. And so we thought some work sessions might be worthwhile. That's up to you. But anything you ever want to know about our infrastructure, we have the expertise to walk you through that. And all these master plans are already in place and are functional and real time. So under our proposed work plan, number one is just let's just make sure that you have access to all those master plans and you can ask any questions about those at any time, and know that those master plans roll into the capital improvement plan. So that was really all I wanted to address on number one. Do you have any questions on that? I also thought I should end. I put it at my last bullet point to address to you today, but I think I'll move it up. In the end, like the outcome I hope that comes from this work session is that you all will move toward adopting a resolution that accepts, or, we can edit this, edify it, probably that too. But but we could be making comments, and because after we run through this work session today, we can have more discussions, but at some point we'll need to say this is what you want, or you're comfortable with this, and then we'll call that, and then we'll go to work all year to try to address these things. Yeah. So any questions or input on number one? That's a high level, very quick, but I just wanted to update you on infrastructure. Yes, sir.
Yeah, just a kind of meta question, and then I do have a specific question for Paul or y'all. Mm-hmm. But are we, in terms of expectations, I really find this very helpful, and the conclusion that we want to come to would be exactly where I'd want to land.
Perfect.
But I don't see how we're going to do that in 30 minutes. So what are our expectations for this work session? Do we hope to get through the whole 8? And
yes.
Okay.
And we're going to move faster. But if we run out of time, then, but yeah, the idea was that we would get through the 8. The last, actually 7 and 8 are almost redundant, we felt. And so those will go quick. So really 6, and it's just a high level overview. You've had this document for a while.
Yeah, exactly.
And we just mostly wanted to answer questions and kind of set it up. So hopefully we'll get through it. That would be my hope.
Yeah. Okay. Then I will not follow up with specific questions, because it will drill us down into issues. And we're not going to finish what we're going to do if we're going to get down into issues that are raised, which is fine. It just helps me to know how to plan time.
Okay. I don't know if you would be comfortable actually adopting it tonight. I figured there might be some edits or some input or some conversations you might not have amongst yourself during the discussion state part of your own council meeting. But at some point, we'd love to make sure this is fine-tuned and moving forward.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. So the second item then, if you're comfortable with me moving to your second priority, and that is lack of workforce housing. You'll notice in your red is, you can do some things on lobbying and you talk about city surplus and whatnot. In our blue, we talked about, let's make sure that we get you a schedule of any surplus property. And I can just make this go very quick. Sue has assured me that we don't have any surplus property, so that's easy. And then, of course, we're moving on the grants all the time to look at, and Megan's here to answer any questions, but we're always looking for anything we can do with developers. But most of the grants aren't for cities to be, you've mentioned this before, I think, Dan, in council meetings, that grants aren't made for cities to become a developer, so a contractor. But yes, Kathy.
Let's go back to surplus properties. I raised my hand because isn't that purple building or kitty corner in the street belong to the city next to
Yes.
the daycare?
Yes.
And it's for storage.
Well, no, it's offices. Yeah, we use that. That's an active.
There's offices in there?
Oh, we've remodeled that, and we have 3 very important offices over there. We do have
I didn't
some storage.
understand.
Yeah.
Okay, and the house is it called Gebhardt Park?
That's the only other one, and I have a full report on that. So we, Public Works has moved that forward to an auction status to be able to, and I can get you some more information on that. But yes, that's the only surplus property, I think, that exists. And after Public Works and some engineering, I don't know if you want to talk about that, but I got a really nice report from Hannah on that.
Yeah, so the extra property, the extra house, the old one, we've gone through it. We've done an assessment. Structurally, it's fine. Unfortunately, it doesn't meet any modern standards. And we've had an individual come in who's basically in the business of transporting, moving those types of facilities. And he feels like he can't pick it up and he can't move it. So we're going through the process right now to get before council to authorize that to be used as surplus and to auction the house off, to remove the house from the property. A couple of the outbuildings too, the old wooden ones that are basically boarded up to keep people out of them. They have value to somebody for the wood, but from the city and from the park perspective, they're dangerous, and we really don't see a future use for them. That'll also be coming forward to council for
We
consideration.
were told city workers were living in the house at the park.
There's 2 houses. One is way past,
Okay.
I mean, requires I think the estimate was over 200,000 to make it up to code and whatnot.
Okay.
And that one we're thinking about auctioning off for historical and financial
Okay.
reasons and whatnot. The other one has been semi-remodeled, and it is currently being used by staff
And the city's hanging on to that one?
in an interim basis. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for answering my
Yeah,
question.
those are really good questions. And that's the only surplus property I think we have for you. Other than that, let me continue down our blue items, identifier inventory. I think probably we've already talked about almost everything. Let me jump over to the green, because I think you actually have 4 things that we thought really would help address workforce housing, because it often is more policy than operations. So under green, we say we could have some work, you all might want to have more work sessions with other subject matter experts or entities such as, Tim Dalton and the county commissioners, the Public Housing Authority, et cetera, et cetera. There's a fair amount of those. You all, I think, are being fairly active in participation in the different committees that have to do with housing. And, there's several besides the Housing Solution Committee. There's some other subcommittees and whatnot. And then number 3 is capitalize on participation in the AWC and the North Olympic, the NOLA Legislative Alliance. These are all policy things that you all could do, working with the county on 1590 funds in SQUIM or at least the East County, et cetera. So you can read our blue and our suggestions for green. You can add to it or whatnot, but those were our suggestions for your priority number 2. Yes, Kathy?
I'm sorry.
No, it's great.
We met with Mr. Dalton, we had 2 meetings on housing, as you
Mhm.
remember last year, that got a little more like arm twisting on my part. But anyway, Tim Dalton came to our at least one meeting and nothing came of it because we were under the impression that the 1590 could be used a little differently than the previous council people thought. And also, do you remember the young man that came and talked to us, that there was an issue with the hearing examiner? And
Grubs.
Is that Grub?
Yes.
I don't know what he has a small unit,
Mhm.
like 8 units he's
Yeah.
going to build. Was he, he keeps calling it affordable housing. I don't know what his definition.
I don't think it meets the,
Okay.
the definition of affordable housing, and he's got 2 properties, and we're working with him on both of those.
Okay,
They're
but has
moving forward.
anybody offered to walk him through the CHIP grant? If it really is affordable workforce housing?
I don't think he, do you know, Lindsay, if he qualifies under affordable housing? I don't think so.
Okay.
No. And
One of the things that we could do is be more upfront about those available grants for private entities to be able to look at and look for. But that would not be something that the city necessarily.
Because we helped Habitat do it.
right, if there was a grant,
Correct, as
if
a
he,
nonprofit.
Oh, I see. Okay. Thank you. Because I didn't understand that. I thought, why aren't more people applying for this help?
and I think out of all, I think I've shared with you the website that was put together regarding all the developments around the town, and you can see the actual lot plots and all that. I think Habitat is the only one that really is an affordable housing.
Meets the
and
definition.
Yes,
Right.
meets
Okay.
the true definition. And that is not in our court at this point. We have sent a letter to them saying, what do you want to do, and how are you going to move forward? And we could spend more time on that. But Lindsay is reaching out to them again to make sure that it's not sitting in our court.
Thank you.
So just so you know that we're
I understand.
actively trying to move that forward.
Okay. Thank you
Yeah.
for answering my question.
No, I really appreciate it. That's the point. of this.
Matt, that's in reference to the Habitat project.
Yes.
Thank you. Something that weighs on my mind a lot, and then it was a big focus of our discussion with the school board also. If maybe the other counselors know, or maybe one of you know, but what is the current level of, if you could remind me, the current level of waiver that is happening for projects that waiver of GFCs and other fees for affordable housing projects? Wasn't that
We don't have any affordable housing. We are participating in workforce housing. The CHIP grant is going to go towards Habitat's workforce housing, which is income 30% AMI to 80% AMI.
Mhm.
Affordable housing, people don't buy, but Habitat sells those homes.
Mhm.
People that are qualified for affordable housing cannot
Mhm.
buy even a house like that.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Mhm. Right, because right now there's 700 plus homes being built in Squim,
Right.
and not a single one of those is going to be an apartment.
Right. We can't make people build it.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
Unfortunately.
we got the $2 million CHIP grant
Mhm.
from the state in partnership with Habitat. And
Mhm.
that takes care of most of their, I'd have to turn to Megan, but I think most of their fees from impact to GFCs or whatever, it
Mhm.
covers almost all of those and then some. So that was a gift or, a grant from the state. We're waiting for them to move their project forward with ecology and wetlands and other things so that they can start building it. But the ball's in their court.
Mhm.
Now, I think the only other thing you may be referring to, because I think you mentioned it at the last council meeting, that you were interested in maybe proposing some kind of waiver to try to, stimulate growth here or something like that. And Kathy,
Was it 50%, Rachel?
it was just, and I'd have to go back to that
It was a
resolution.
park impact fee with a sunset clause.
Yes, it was
Nobody
a
has taken us up.
Yeah, I'd have to
So the
relook at that. So
sunset
we can look
clause
that
will
up for
come
you.
and go.
Yeah,
50%
it was 50% for
Park
3
impact
years
fee.
for, I think,
workforce housing.
and we can get you that. So it was an attempt to move that direction.
You don't want to go too much. This is my opinion. You don't want to go too much higher than that. Those people that move here are going to use the park. So we don't want to bankrupt the parks. We just want to get somehow get people to build affordable and workforce housing. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
That's why I asked that it be a sunset clause.
I think that is very smart, is very prudent strategy to safeguard our resources as a city and as an organization. I don't know. I mean, I think everyone right now is scratching their head trying to figure out how to convince people to build apartment buildings. And I will keep researching, and if I find it, I will bring something back to council. I'm sorry I don't have more for you today.
Thank you.
Quick time check. We have about 7 minutes left.
I'm saddened by that.
That's fine.
So let's go to number 3 then, although I don't think it requires much effort because you've just had a discussion, but let me turn a few minutes over to Lindsay's got a couple things to show you that can answer really all of our blue and the green recommendations.
And I will also share these slides with, request Amy share these slides with you so that you have it for your meeting materials as well. So just a top level priorities that were listed on the worksheet. Number 1, the infrastructure catching up with growth. Number 2, lack of workforce housing, affordable housing. The policies that will be drafted and adopted in the land use and housing elements are required under GMA and can address the city's approach and council's desired approach. The comprehensive plan update is happening now. I will take a plug for squimimagine.org any moment I can. That is where you will find all of the information, the process, the outreach, the engagement that you need to know. And it is a living website, so it will be changing. So please flag that for the next 18 months or so. And then, as we already discussed, the climate change element and resiliency element is new in requirement under the comprehensive plan. So we will have a new element with policies in that in 2025. The next slide just goes over the high-level workshop. It is about an 18-month program for the comprehensive plan update. We are currently in the first phases and community engagement. And you can see how these months fall out until it gets to Planning Commission, City Council study sessions, and public hearings. So 2025, between likely March through December, will be big for you on the comprehensive plan. Beginning with Planning Commission, then we will also have an open house. And we're looking at dates to have a joint Planning Commission City Council meeting where Planning Commission can deliver their written recommendations. So that is what we have now for the comprehensive plan. And of course, anytime if you have questions on this, feel free to either go through Matt or reach out, and I'd be happy to share more.
And if you look at our blue and our green, they're pretty self-explanatory. It's what we've already talked about tonight and generally. So I think those are pretty self-descriptive. I'm going to move to number 4 then, unless there's some other questions. And that is capitalize on our strengths. You qualified this under opportunities as this SWOT analysis. And really, we're doing, again, they're very descriptive, pretty elementary in a way, but it's mostly continue the things that we're doing already. But I think you'll be happy to know that it is addressing your priority to capitalize on our strength. One is of course, the number 1 blue is to continue to support our staff in their careers, reskilling, certifications, training, making sure they're successful. You'll hear my city manager report tonight that we continue to survey them for any process improvement they think we can do as leadership. So number 2 in there was to continue to have work sessions with regarding any subject matter expert that you might have a question on. We continue to update number 3 is updating our fact sheets and continue to use those. Those have been quite useful to our residents. You'll continue to hear from Sue regarding quarterly financial updates, et cetera, et cetera. 5 is just meeting with you and meeting with the other partners on the peninsula, et cetera. So not a lot there. Do you have any questions regarding the blue or the green regarding leveraging or capitalizing on our strengths. And again, I think you'll have time to think in a different work session or under your own discussion, but those are pretty self-explanatory. How much time do we have? Wow.
I just wanted to reiterate that I appreciate work sessions. So thank you.
Good. Yeah, we've recommended them in most of our action items. I do think 5 and let's see what 6 is. Yeah. So 6 is mostly just getting involved in the lobbyist experience, and we have already reached out to him. We have created our operations list. So as you know, in the last city manager report, I asked you, how do you want the city to work with you? Is it through a small subcommittee? Will it be through the mayor? Will it be in agenda planning? I'm not sure exactly how you want to be involved in that, but we want you involved early on. So that's number 6. Number 5, it will take just a second more than that. I think you'll be very pleased to know that we're very aggressively working on climate change. And Amy, can you pull up that document? Why don't you go to the second? Well, so yeah, let's talk about number 1. We do have an internal sustainability and resilience committee. No, that was fine. Blow that up again some more, and let's just talk about number 1 there. Yeah, so we meet. It has representation from all the right departments in the city. We meet quarterly. We have we've initiated a sustainable swim campaign, and we have created a big menu of 7 different categories that have to do with sustainability and resiliency. And let me show you those in a second. But under 1E, you'll see that we have sustainability goals and resiliency goals. And that 7 category menu looks like this. So this is a long document, multiple pages. You can see the different categories. The first one being energy efficiency and conservation, or green building. The second one being water and wastewater. You'll see the color code. So we have the legend at the bottom that's we've tried to heat map this. What's a smaller lift or easy kind of low fruit that we can pick versus medium lift or big. And so you can see that we have 7 different categories, and then a lot of items under each of those categories. And we are working through this. Why don't you scroll up quickly to show them some of the other categories? Water resources, wastewater.
We have about 1 minute left.
Okay. So I don't know if you've seen this agenda, but if you go back to the other one, I will end on this. Can you get back? Yeah. So our plan is just basically to continue our sustainability, a sustainable and resiliency committee, to continue our water conservation plan, scroll up exactly, to meet with the subject matter experts. And we've included here, and I'll email this out to you, this is our 2024 sustainability and resiliency plan, and it fits right into your priority to deal or to address climate change. So I think you'll be really happy to know that a lot of that groundwork's been done, and we just need to get it to you for your review. So with that, I think we've addressed most of it. 7 and 8, again, I think your priorities have been previously addressed in this document because it just had to do with housing, and with number 8 is growth. So I know we're getting short. How would you like to proceed? Will this come up under discussion in your own city council meeting, or how will you want to move this forward?
So I was going to get to that.
Perfect.
Quick question for council. I wasn't sure if everybody wanted to think about it. Do you want to approve what we have tonight? How are we feeling? I'm just, to get it started here, I'm feeling very comfortable with the green text of the proposed work plan, with, in addition, in the infrastructure needs to catch up with growth box of just provide clear policy decisions to support infrastructure growth.
I would like to, can we do it before the next meeting, 5 p.m. in 2 weeks? I'm not comfortable with, I don't think we've had time to discuss the discuss it enough. We haven't talked it to death yet. So can we do that? Just one more meeting.
Can I get a show of hands who would like to have a work session at the next, before the next
meeting.
regular council meeting? 2, 3, Dan?
I like the concept of having another one. Whether or not I can participate in another one at that specific time is where that's the only reason I'm hesitating. But I tend to agree with Kathy. I think this probably needs more processing. Plus,
I mean, we had the
Vicky and-
information, but
Yeah, plus Vicky and Brandon haven't been part of this, so it gives them an opportunity to engage. So
Would you
Alright.
want to do a work session or put it on your council under discussion and have it as a regular council meeting item?
I'd prefer a work session.
Okay.
I would too.
Okay.
Good.
Good.
Anybody else want to weigh in? Work session. All right. So
Thank you for that
Thank you.
direction. And we will forward you the documents that we have shown you tonight that weren't part of the packet.
all right. And before we adjourn, I just want to thank all of the senior management team for
Yes,
all of their hard
Very
work.
much.
I really appreciate
They've
it.
all
information.
participated, including Megan, who's behind us, who's done a lot of this. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Megan.
Do you formally adjourn this work session?
Rachel,
It's
are
a
we
free-for-all,
formally
we don't
adjourned?
know.
Formally adjourned. All right, I will call this meeting to order. First order of business is the pledge. Please stand. City Clerk, if you could please do roll call.
Councilor Downer,
Here.
Councilor Butler,
here,
Councilor Lowe, Deputy Mayor Anderson,
Present.
Mayor Janice, Councilor Rutter,
Here.
Councilor Hartman.
Here.
And Councilor Lowe said she would attend virtually, but we have not seen her yet. So maybe at this point, we can motion to excuse Mayor Janice and Councilor Lowe just in case. And then if she pops in, we're covered.
so moved.
All right, thank you. Can I get a second?
I second that.
Thank you so much. And by unanimous consent, is there anyone who does not approve said motion? All right, thank you so much. Moving on to the final agenda. Are there any changes to the final agenda? Going once, going twice? All right. Can I get a motion to approve the final agenda, please?
I move to approve the final agenda.
And a second?
Second.
And by unanimous consent, is there anybody who does not approve the final agenda? All right, and now we will move on to our ceremonial. I will read the proclamation for National Disability Independence Day. One moment. It's a long one. All right. Whereas the Americans with Disabilities Act's roots are in the civil rights movement and were inspired by the broader civil rights struggles of the time. The movement rejected the cruel and paternalistic attitudes toward disabilities and advocated instead for full access to opportunities in employment, education, and public life. And whereas the history of the American Disabilities Act happened through peaceful protests to bring attention to injustices to disabled persons. Starting on April 5th, 1977, protesters in cities across the U.S. participated in the 504 sit-ins by peacefully occupying federal buildings while demanding then U.S. Secretary of Health, Education, and Welfare, Joseph Califano, sign and enact regulations stipulated by Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973, prohibiting recipients of federal funds from discriminating against people with disabilities. In Washington, D.C., about 300 people staged a 28-hour sit-in at health, education, and wellness offices. In San Francisco, more than 100 disability right activists occupied health, education, and wellness offices for 25 days. The longest such protest at a federal office building in U.S. history. These demonstrations ultimately forced Califano to sign the 504 regulations on April 28, 1977. Whereas during the Capitol crawl in March 1990, 1,000 people marched from the White House to the U.S. Capitol building, urging Congress to enact the American Disabilities Act. Upon arrival, many participants jettisoned their wheelchairs, crutches, and other mobility aids to crawl up its steps and highlight inaccessible architecture and the need for many other reforms. The demonstration highlighted just how inaccessible society has been for people with disabilities, with evocative imagery of the physical and political barriers that remain for so many excluded from civic life. Whereas the Americans with Disabilities Act was signed into law by President George H.W. Bush on July 26, 1990, and criminalizes any kind of discrimination against individuals with disabilities and assures them full participation in the community, independent living, and economic self-sufficiency. And whereas the Americans with Disabilities Act's prohibition applies to employment, transportation, public accommodations, communications, and access to state and local government programs and services. And whereas National Disability Independence Day was established to raise awareness and give an understanding of the importance of accessibility to all people in all areas of our lives. National Disability Independence Day is celebrated every year on July 26th, commemorating the signing of the Americans with Disability Act. And whereas the American Disabilities Act is a life-changing act for many people. Today, 1 in 4 Americans with a disability can access and participate better in their workplaces and general communities. And whereas disabled Americans, including SQUIM community members, contribute to our community in many ways and need to continue to have equal access to all aspects of our community. And now, therefore, I, Rachel Anderson, Deputy Mayor of the City of Sequim, and on behalf of the City Council, do hereby recognize July 26th, 2024 as National Disability Independence Day. We encourage community members to learn about and study the history behind the disability movement, join seminars and webinars, and participate in discussions to learn more about the current circumstances and the effects of the Americans with Disabilities Act. Thank you. I don't believe there was anybody here to receive the proclamation. All right.
Thank you for reading that, Rachel.
Are there any, I should have asked, are there any comments from council? Thank you.
Yes, thank you for reading that. Very important to recognize and uplift Americans, all Americans in our community and in our country. So thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other comments before we move on? All right. Now we will move on to public comment. This is a limited public forum. Individuals providing public comment must not disrupt or otherwise impede the orderly conduct of the meeting. This is not a forum for hate speech. The City of Sequim supports the public's First Amendment right to free speech, but it does not support hate speech. Speakers are expected to be courteous and refrain from making hateful comments, sounds, or remarks. Any offensive words and conduct shared by the public do not reflect the city's values. The City of Sequim stands firm in its commitment to being an inclusive community and rejects discrimination of any kind.
The Sequim City Council has implemented a new procedure for remote public comments during city council meetings. Beginning in July 2024, all community members who wish to participate in remote public comment via Zoom or by phone are required to register on the city website at www.squimwa.gov/1219/submit-public-comments by 3 p.m. on the day of the meeting. The new registration process is designed to streamline and enhance the public comment experience for everyone involved. For individuals attending in person, please take a moment to silence your cell phones. I will collect the sign-in sheet shortly. If you wish to make a public comment, please sign in on the public comment sign-in sheets. In-person public comments will be alternated with confirmed registered remote comments. For individuals registered and approved to provide remote public comments, which we have none tonight, so I'll skip that. Each person will have 3 minutes to speak on any topic, and there will be a timer visible on the screen. A total of 30 minutes or 10 speakers will be permitted for public comments. Please state your name if you're representing an organization and your city of residence. And a special note, there is a public comment general period tonight, and there's also a public hearing. So when I collect the sheets, I'm just going to double check with people on the sign-in sheet if it's for a general public comment, because that's what we're doing first. And then we'll do the public hearing related public comments afterwards. So I'll help walk through that. So I'll collect those sign-in sheets now.
And just so everybody is aware, I closed the door because the outside audio was very distracting, but you are free to come and go as you please.
Okay, so I'm going to confirm if this is a general public comment not related to our public hearing. Our public hearing tonight is on the moratorium extension. So Lee, are you here for general public comment? General public comment, come on up.
All right. First of all, Lee Fox, CERT member, Team 9 here in Sequim. I want you to know that I care about you guys a lot. I've been a wildland firefighter for 10 years, engine boss, crew boss, trained with the guys at the smoke dumper base out of Twisp. And being on the east side, I'm just going to tell you guys, we're not prepared. I don't know what's been done in the way of thoroughly teaching you how to triage your house. I don't mean to scare you, but there's a lot you can do to help yourselves out. And you won't have a lot of time to do that if you don't prepare now. In our meetings, we went over stuff and I had talked to my members and they were surprised at what they didn't know. So you have a lot of knowledge here with the police chief, or not the police chief, but the captains. They go through that. I strongly encourage you to get to those classes. Find out. There's going to be one held up at the college. I currently attend there. I'm in emergency management. I'll be graduating this fall, hopefully to get into that field and wherever they take me. But that being said, Matthew, haven't met you yet. Heard a lot of good things. My wife told me about you. One thing she told me is that you graduated from Stadium. So I'm already jealous. What year did you graduate?
I don't mind. I have my 50th anniversary next month.
Okay, well,
Graduation.
we're probably in the same boat, my friend. 88. And I don't want, please don't ask me where I graduated from. I'll just give you a clue. Will Scum. So I just wanted to, I think it's important, honestly, for you guys to go to whatever meetings or classes that the fire chief and personnel put on that will help you get prepared. I'm a strong believer in go bags. I remember knocking on people's doors saying, you got to get now. And I was amazed at how many people weren't ready. You got 10 minutes, 15 minutes most. And let's just say it's better to be ready. You're going to want things that you should have in your vehicle. 3 days, food, water, supplies, and that's besides your go bag. So get these things ready. The climate is changing. You're not used to it on the West Coast. This is a regular thing over on the East Side. In Twisp is where I was based out of. So I know what I'm saying. And I'm not saying it to put it lightly. I can't say it and emphasize it enough. And I do care about you guys. I serve you guys. And the last thing I want to do is, I'm not even going to mention it. Love you guys.
Okay. Anne, do you have a general public comment? Come on up.
Good evening, Sequim City Councilor, City Manager, City Attorney, and everyone attending. My name is Ann Henninger, and I live at 425 North Sunnyside Avenue. I am delighted to say that I've been a nurse for 34 years. The last 26 of those years have been here in Sequim. And my public comment tonight is in support of the Hospital Proposition 1, otherwise known as the OMC levy. And if passed, Hospital Proposition 1 will support the viability of 24/7, 365 services at OMC. As you know, we have the hospital in Port Angeles, but we also have ancillary clinics in PA and also here in Sequim. It will also keep critically needed services available in our community, namely labor and delivery, cancer care, home health, ICU services.
And
Yes.
I'm really sorry to cut you off,
Sure.
but we're not able to use city facilities to be in support of ballot measures.
So as a citizen, I cannot speak my support of the ballot measure. I'm not asking for your support. I'm trying to provide education. I'm not asking for your support. No, I'll wait for.
I'm sorry.
Right.
Deputy Mayor, could you ask me repeat your question?
It's my understanding that people or entities are not able to use city facilities to campaign or promote ballot measures.
That is correct.
Okay.
So, and there are reasons, there are ways in which that can be done, but the city does not have a history of doing that. So it is not a normal course and conduct of our business. So while you are free to speak on the topic, that we would ask that you avoid using any language that could be construed as campaigning for or against a particular ballot measure.
Okay.
If you could limit it to literally just facts, that would be
Okay.
fantastic.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
That's what I was trying to hit on. So
I'm so sorry. I would like to ask Anthony if he could reset the clock for her, please.
thank you very much. So keeping the critically needed services local, helping us to be able to recruit and retain staff and give us flexibility and options. It's a piece of the puzzle for our long-term viability. So I would just urge you and all residents to educate yourself on this matter and consider the well-being of our community. Thank you.
Daryl Wolf, do you have a general public comment? Okay.
I'll look to you guys if I get off track.
If I may, I could just suggest to avoid using adjectives would probably help tremendously.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll do my best here. Good evening. My name is Daryl Wolf. I am the Chief Executive Officer of Clallam County Public Hospital District Number 2, also known as the Olympic Medical Center. And I've lived in this, I live in Port Angeles, but I used to live in Sequim, and every time I come here, I wonder why I sold that house to my parents, because it's sunny here and it's rainy when I leave PA. I'm here to make you aware of Proposition 1 as well. It is on the August 6th ballot. We are a public hospital district. We're locally governed. We have 7 commissioners. Those are my bosses. Our district extends from Lake Crescent to the east, to Diamond Point, basically. It was created to meet the needs of the community. Public hospital districts were set up many, many years ago. OMC's been in business since for about 73 years. And the way we function is we don't turn anyone away. We take care of all folks, regardless of their ability to pay, whether they're on Medicare, Medicaid, et cetera. And that's how we were set up. That is our mission, and that is what we continue to do. Some facts about us around our scale is, we do have an average daily census in the 40s, which means we have 40 people in our hospital receiving care at any given time. We see about 1,200 people per day across the organization on a business day. We delivered 400 babies last year. Our clinic saw about 150,000 patient visits in 2023. We have an intensive care unit, et cetera, et cetera. And as Commissioner Henninger mentioned, why this is on the ballot is primarily to help support the viability of the services that we all have 24/7, 365. That includes our level 3 trauma center that we do have in Port Angeles. Keeps services here local. As many of you know, over the years, Olympic Medical Center took on clinics and practices that left the area, that were going to leave the area because they were no longer financially viable. Olympic Medical Center has, for the 18 years I've been there, has stepped in and done that. And again, we need a highly trained workforce that is very difficult to acquire. And we need to reinforce our ability to maintain that. We do our best with the college, with our own internal training programs to grow as many as we can locally. But at the end of the day, we can only train so many nurses and physicians locally. We need to bring in more to fill in all the gaps. And lastly, as Anne Marie mentioned, it gives the district, the levy stays intact for the future. I don't know what the future looks like. I can tell you now, telemedicine is a big thing, and we're doing a lot of work around that. In 10 or 15 or 20 years, when I'm gone, the levy gives us more flexibility going forward. Thank you for letting me speak. I'm happy to answer more questions. I know later in the agenda, you have an open council discussion, and I'm happy to stick around if you'd like to ask me questions at that time as well. So thank you. You guys did I stay on course pretty good?
I would have interrupted if you weren't, so thank you.
Okay. All right, thanks. Would you like for me to stay for later, or have you heard enough? You have an open discussion, I think, period or something.
Our committee reports.
Okay. Okay. Well, then I will. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Carol.
There was somebody with a hand up. Should we ask them to stay after her other residents?
Okay. Kelly, do you have a general public comment? Yeah, come on.
Can I lower this? Thank you. I'm vertically challenged. All right, my name is Kelly. I am the director of the Sequim Lavender Festival. I am representing the Sequim Lavender Growers Association. I apologize if I trip over my words. It's been a very long, super fun weekend. So I am here to, on behalf of SLEGA, say thank you very much to the city and all the staff for letting us use Carrie Blake Park. Thank you to Waste Management and Bill's Plumbing for giving us all of the stuff we need to run the show. Thank you to all of you guys for coming and making it really fun. And then we got maps this year. So we actually, and unfortunately the scouts were a little rough on it. But I have proof that we had people from Fiji, from Korea, from India, from Taiwan, from Japan, Poland, Germany. We got marks all over the place. And then all four corners plus the center of Washington State. We had roughly, and these are very rough numbers, we're still calculating everything. Friday, we had generally about 20,000 visitors come through the park. Saturday and Sunday, it was about 15,000 people coming through the park. Those are just rough estimates. We're still collecting all the numbers. They may be higher than that, but it was a really successful show. Thank you so much. And again, for the scouts and for CERT, oh my gosh, my joke is if they quit helping us, I'm leaving. So thank you guys so much again, and we look forward to seeing you guys next year.
That concludes the general public comment portion of this meeting, and it looks like Vicki has joined us.
Yes, I was just going to say, for the record, Vicki is here virtually.
Yay, Vicki.
Welcome, Vicki. We just finished public comment, and now we are moving on to the public hearing. Before we open the public hearing, the clerk will read the comment instructions.
So as noted previously, we have the new public comment procedure. Soon the deputy mayor will open the public hearing and take public comments. I have the sign-in sheet here. Let me know if you want to sign it, but I do have that collected. And please avoid comments not related to the subject of the hearing. This is specifically comments related to the public hearing. And I'll give it back to you, Deputy Mayor.
All right, the subject of the public hearing is regarding a 6-month extension of the moratorium for applications and permits for redevelopment of mobile home and manufactured home parks. The public hearing is now open. Does the city manager or staff have testimony to present?
Thank you. Lindsay, who is our director of DCD and works with our planning commission, will share a few comments.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Thank you, Matthew. Tonight, the City Council has in front of you a 6-month moratorium extension pertaining to mobile manufacturing parks. This would be the third ordinance and second extension on the moratorium that the city has considered. The request is the current moratorium expires on August 12th with the timeline of my hire with the work program that I needed to get very familiar with quickly, as well as some of my own leadership touches in scheduling a site visit and doing a work review with the Planning Commission. I identified that an additional extension for them to finish up the work would be in everybody's best interest, in my opinion. So the ordinance tonight in front of you does require a public hearing. It is a moratorium extension, and therefore it does also require to receive a majority of council +1. And so staff recommends that you open the public hearing, consider testimony, and then consider the attached ordinance. Thank you.
Are there any questions from council to staff? All righty. We will now move on to public comment. This is a public hearing. All audience members wishing to make comment will be allotted 3 minutes to speak. When it is your time to speak, please give your name, your address, and whether you reside within the city limits of SQUIM. Please avoid repetitious comments, personal attacks, or comments not related to the subject before the council. The city of SQUIM supports the public's First Amendment right to free speech, but does not support the use of hate speech or offensive language. Any offensive words and conduct shared by the public do not reflect the city's values. City Clerk, do we have any members of the public who wish to speak?
Yes, we have Doug Wright. Would you like to come up?
Old hip moving here. I'm it again. Yes, I'm Doug Wright. I live in SQUIM and Hendrickson community. You're probably tired of seeing me by now. Never mind. It's just a thank you night. I want to let everybody know that they're appreciated, the city council, the planning commission, the staff. I've dealt with city people before, and I have always been very impressed with the folks that I deal with here. I don't think there's anybody in this room that I haven't dealt with, many of you personally. Some of you quite a bit, probably more than you would like. But the staff, the planning commission, the council, you've all been open. Excuse me. You've been open to suggestions, ideas, approaches. You've listened. You've done thoughtful consideration of what was brought to you. I think you understand the situation. And the situation is new to most of you. It's new to most of the people in this room. And the concept is very difficult to grasp by a lot of people because it is new. But you're this close. That's why I just ask that you continue this one more time to give staff the time they need to finish pulling all of their stats together, getting it to the Planning Commission so they can get their stats together and bring you something that you can approve of, hopefully the first time. That's why they're taking a little bit more time here than usual. They want to get it right. So give them a little bit more time, let them get it right. These people need this. There's things going on here in town you probably don't even know about. It could be affected by what you're working on right now. And I mean in a positive manner, what you're doing. So extend it, give them some more time, let them get their job done. Let's make this thing work. Like I told some people, we got a light at the end of the tunnel. It's not that far off. And by golly, it's not a freight train coming at you. So thank you very much.
That concludes the public comment portion.
All righty. Thank you, Doug, for providing public comment. Is there any council discussion?
I'm prepared to move.
Committee? All right. One moment, please. The public hearing is now closed, and we will move on to council action.
I move to adopt ordinance to be numbered extending the moratorium on the redevelopment of mobile and manufactured home parks and direct staff to return with draft materials deliberated with and recommended by the Planning Commission.
I will second that. City Clerk, if you could please do roll call.
Councilor Downer,
Yes.
Councilor Butler,
Aye.
Councilor Lowe,
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Anderson,
Aye.
Mayor Janice is absent, Councilor Rudder,
Yes.
Councilor Hartman.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0.
Thank you so much, Council. If I could motion for a 5-minute recess, could I please get a second?
I second that.
Thank you so much. And by unanimous consent, is there anyone who does not approve? Okay, thank you. 5-minute recess.
Thanks for coming, everybody.
You're on your mic when you're ready.
There's a lot of noise out in the lobby. Do you hear it?
All righty. We are getting back to our meeting here. All righty. Moving on to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move to approve.
I
this consent
often,
agenda.
sorry, I often read it. Would you mind if I read it?
Oh, please go ahead.
Okay. Just for the record, you know what you're voting on. Okay. So we have item 8A, claim vouchers totaling $889,159.61. Item B, the city council meeting minutes from July 8th and from July 15th special session. Item C, the Sequim Municipal Code amendments about the city clerk duties. That's SMC chapters 2.50, 2.12, and the new chapter 2.51. Item D, the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee reappointments. Item E, the Priest Road Rehabilitation Local Agency Agreement. Item F, the River Road Overlay Local Agency Agreement. Item G, the Washington Street Pavement Rehabilitation Local Agency Agreement. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Move to adopt the consent agenda.
I second that.
And we will vote by unanimous consent. Is there anybody that does not approve the consent agenda? Alrighty, so approved. Moving on to general business.
I think you're up, Lindsay.
I didn't know if the agenda item got
Feel welcome.
title got
Sorry,
named or
Lindsay
not.
will be talking about
Sorry.
item 9A.
Thank you. Tonight, we have a first touch for a proposed fee amendment to the Title 3.68 in the Sequim Municipal Code. This fee amendment is necessary for processing of our master plan code, which is a zoning allowance under Title 1830. As staff was acclimating with the program and the process, we identified the development of an application and establishment of a fee was needed for the applicant to be able to utilize the process in 1830. Staff then identified the requirements for the master plan, looked at other requirements and permit fees within the city of Sequim's established standards, and identified that the major subdivision preliminary plat fee was the most aligned and appropriate to adopt similarly for master plan applications. So staff is available for any questions if you have any. That concludes my brief on it. We are requesting this come back for second touch public hearing and adoption on August 12th.
Does council have any questions? Pretty straightforward.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. All righty. Is anyone prepared to make a motion? If not, I will.
I'm happy to. I seem to be the motion man tonight. I move to direct staff to schedule a public hearing on this matter in the regular manner and second touch for August 12, 2024.
I will second that. City Clerk, if you could please take a roll call vote.
Councilor Downer.
Yes.
Councilor Butler.
Yes.
Councilor Lowe.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Anderson.
Aye.
Councilor Rutter.
Yes.
Councilor Hartman.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0.
Thank you so much, Lindsay. All right, moving on to our reports. It looks like our youth liaisons are not here tonight. Hopefully they will be at our next meeting. City manager report.
Thank you very much. Nice to meet with you again. So a few items here. First, from the city manager's office. As you've heard, and I'm sure I saw many of you participating in the Lavender Festival. That was a busy time for many of our departments, our police department, parks, communication, marketing. Barb's still here and worked very hard on producing maps and communicating that in all our social media. And then, of course, public works. So a busy weekend for the city staff. I wanted you to know that I'm just fine tuning and we're trying to finalize a balanced budget for next year. So I'm working closely with Sue, but we're getting very close and you've got the timelines. It's still early, but we're getting, we'll have that on time to you and be fine tuning that. Tied to the student liaisons not here, we started talking the city manager's office and the clerks. That is, as you know, we usually talk about that in kind of late summer as school gets ready to get back. We've got some really nice guidelines. Rachel was the kind of liaison between the city council and the school district, and we advertised for these positions and created an application process, et cetera. So it might be a couple weeks too early, but we're not meeting again till August. And so I just wanted to know if you want one of them is a senior and one not. So if the staff is to continue to work with you, Deputy Mayor, happy to do that. Just wanted to kind of know how to proceed so that we continue to have that resource here.
Right. I can't remember from the youth liaison packet if their commitment is 1 year or 2 years.
It allowed for either, I believe.
Okay. Because I think Malia still wanted to commit to that.
Okay.
For her senior year. George is leaving.
Yes.
Congratulations. And so I think a good plan would be to send out the packet to the leadership teacher and out to the general public, obviously, if there's, high school age kids that want to apply that don't go to the public school. But if we could have a deadline for applications, I can't remember what it was last year, but probably like middle September, I think would be a good time allotment. Does any council member have any objections to that? And then when we get applications in, we can talk about how we go through them going forward.
And you're willing to continue to be that liaison? That's helpful.
Oh, yeah.
And would Malia participate in that process as a peer?
I could definitely ask. I think that would be a good idea.
I think it'd be terrific.
Yeah. Harmony.
Just a thought there. There's so much going on in September for students. I feel like maybe end of September, would that be unreasonable to bump it out 2 weeks? Maybe that could be part of the discussion with Malia, or I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't think it would be unreasonable, but I think it could be worth asking also, Malia and or some of the student body. But you're right, though, especially those leadership kids, they always have so much going on. So that's a good idea. Yes, Nicole.
I just pulled up the website here and it just says that they have to be a junior or senior and that the term runs with the school year September through June, which maybe that's why they're not here. And that they can apply for a second term. So I guess the assumption is it's a 1 year, but I do like the continuity of having a junior reapply and move into their senior year. Right. So I don't know if this suggests that we have to have selected somebody to start in September, if the term runs September through June.
I can add to that. That's just a general, I was trying to put some parameters around it. I believe last year we didn't get it locked in until November. So in a perfect world, right? But that's just kind of a loose ideal timeline. And I believe the liaisons, they have been coming in the summer, and they were indicating that they were happy to be here. They're just currently out of town at the moment with prior commitments. So yes, and to your question.
So I think a good idea then would be to update the packet before we send it out to the public and the leadership teacher. That way it's more clear.
And if you're the continue to be liaison, we'll, like we did last year, kind of fine tune that and work together to get that taken care of.
That sounds good to me.
Okay.
Council sound good?
I think the idea was then you screened them or somehow you screened and then you
Yeah,
interviewed,
Vicki and we
that's right.
had
That's what I meant.
a few interviews with the applicants, and that was a really good process.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
All right. Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, well, and along those same lines with change and whatnot, you all have received a couple emails from us with obvious mixed emotions. We're sad to lose some key leadership positions in the city, but thrilled that they're having some personal career opportunities going forward. And so that makes it a little more tolerable. But this is the last meeting for both Amy, our wonderful city clerk, and for Anthony. Amy's been here about 1.5 years and Anthony for about 5. So, good for them, and we'll wish them well and all that. So they've done a marvelous job, and can't say enough good things about both of them. So thank you both. All right, moving on to some other departments then. From the police department, they are working with our legal department on updating our homelessness and vagrancy fact sheet. As you know, the Supreme Court came out with a recent ruling that allowed for a little more some changes in some of those, the way those were managed. And so we'll clean that up. And then, of course, like all fact sheets, send that out to you all so that you can have that for your constituents. So that's kind of a new thing. And then they're also working on, this is kind of in response to our recent resident survey. There was a lot of interest in asking, the residents asked the city to be a little more proactive versus passively responding to complaints in our code enforcement. And so we're working with HR to try to update that job description and responsibilities to be a little more proactive and whatnot. And again, we'll have more information on that as we finalize that for you. From our communications and marketing department, Barb would tell you that I think we've said plenty of times that we purchased the Moncito ADA software that came with Civic Plus, and we just updated our website after almost a year of work on that. And this is a software that continues to evaluate the integrity of our website, spelling, missed links, all those kinds, and other ADA whatnot. And so we had a work session on that and found the software alerts us to things that we are working on. And so we're actively pursuing that. I thought you'd be happy to know that. If you see issues, let us know. But the software does a pretty good job of that. And finally, I think I've mentioned to you multiple times that the 3 customers that I want to pay particular close attention to is our employees. And we have just kicked off our 3rd employee survey. That closes on the 31st of this month. As of about an hour ago, we had 55% completion rate. We usually get about 85, 86% this last 2 years. So we'll have that done soon. But going back to our resident survey, that was a different vendor. Our employee survey vendor is Gallup. Our resident survey vendor is ETC. They're the big national survey vendor. And we obviously contracted them for the resident survey, and we're also starting a conversation with them about the third customer I care about, or we all should care about, and that's our businesses. So while we're just starting those negotiations, we will probably be, bringing you some information on that as well. Probably kick that off in late fall, early winter, or something like that, to hear from our businesses what they like, what they don't like, what they see as process improvement opportunities for us as a city, and policy and operations, whatever we can do. So that will be equally interesting. So just started having those conversations, and thanks, Barb, for that. And then from HR, getting close to being done here, we have a number of open positions. Of course, we have a parks and event specialist, one additional police officer, a senior planner, and then the 2 positions I just mentioned. And from Public Works, I think there's a solid waste advisory committee, and that's through an interlocal agreement with the county, PA, Port Angeles, and the city. And this is, I'm glad to know that this is our year to be the chair of that advisory committee, because they've moved fast on some things in the past that we weren't able to respond to. So just want to let you know that the chair will be our Public Works Director, and Megan will be running that together. So that's really a positive thing. Staff, Public Works, and several of us are also working with Seabrook. The name of their development is now Harbor Town, so something to kind of get used to. Their previous development down on the coast is called Seabrook, but they're naming this one Harbor Town. Anyway, working through a number of items with them, from infrastructure and roads and a fair amount of things, so it's still early. And then I wanted Harmony to know that we supposedly got rid of all the poison hemlock over there on South Squim. So we thank her. She's our watchdog and our eyes all over town to help us identify that and to remedy that. So thank you for that. And hopefully we took care of that for you. So
thank you. That's on my way home. So every day I was driving by it and like, wow, that's a big poison hemlock specimen. So bravo. Thank you very much for working on that and sharing that with staff. And they did a great job. Thank you.
She's got eyes for that because she works for the WSU extension or whatever that is.
Yeah. So I'm tuned, I guess. It's, poison hemlock's just one of those things you don't want running around in your town. That's not a nice plant to run into.
And before we got over there, once you made us aware, you had already filled up a couple black garbage bags full. So we thank you for your service to help the town as well. So
thanks, Matt.
That's all I have to report.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you. I tried to get in there and get it, but then I quickly realized that that one bag was going to get filled up very quickly. So thank you very, very much for having them finish the job and get it organized.
Kathy has a question.
I just want to ask Matt a question. Who is our code enforcer and what department are they under?
So it's Lisa Hopper, and she's in our police department. She has a split job description between animal control and code enforcement. And we're kind of taking a harder look at that. It's a really old job description. And so, and fairly passive one. It's, you can imagine, small town, just kind of maturing and needing to be a little more proactive.
Thank you.
Thank you. Rachel?
Yes, Dan.
Thanks for the update on the different customer surveys, employee and resident, and also business. That's helpful to see. On the employee one, is there any way to, is there a category in the best workplaces competitions, I guess you call it, for city municipal governments? So in other words, could SQUIM perhaps submit its survey results and receive some sort of designation that might help us in our recruiting and so on?
That's a really good question. It would be my goal to be the most wanted place to work. It's actually one of my high-level objectives to be the most sought-after city in Washington to either work or live. And so that's what gets us up every morning. I haven't seen how we can take our Gallup and submit it somewhere. So let me work with HR and see.
You know the genre that I'm talking about?
Yeah.
You see those little labels on different hospitals or NGOs or something.
That would be a great distinction to go after. So thank you for that recommendation. We'll look into that.
Thank you.
Any other questions before we move on? All righty, on to City Council committee reports. Anybody have any committee reports to share?
I got to go along on the tour with the Planning Commission to the different manufactured mobile home parks around, because I came kind of late to the topic, so I wanted to get familiar with what was going on. And we've got these little pockets just spread out there that I had no idea, but it was interesting to learn about park home models. I'd never seen what the definition of those was versus an RV versus a manufactured home, and really get an understanding, and the Planning Commission is putting a lot of thought into it. So that was very interesting. I feel much more caught up on that now. And then Mike Hill was at the county commissioners meeting this morning with the animal control topic. And I just think that it's a really challenging, there's a lot of folks that are upset. There's a lot of questions with the Humane Society, but it looked like the group, I was zooming into it, it looked like the group really made a lot of progress for 2 hours, was it? An hour? In coming together with some kind of outside of the box thinking and really looking for a solution. Good job on that. That's not an easy one, and we're not the only ones facing it. It's happening all over the place. But anything we can do to be supportive of calming the situation would be quite helpful, because there's a lot of emotion and still a lot of facts to be kind of disseminated throughout the community. Mm-hmm.
Just a quick report. The next Clallam County Homelessness Task Force that I liaison with meeting is August 6th in PA. So
I just wanted to do a really brief shout out to Hannah for leading the Parks, Arbor, and Recreation Board and myself on an amazing tour of the parks. I learned so much. We are very fortunate. I can't wait for expanded access to the property on Happy Valley, as it were, Joseph Keeler Park, and just to open up, and because of that, we didn't even go over there. So there's just so much untapped potential there. The beauty of the new park acquisition is just incredible. We've been contacted by Gary Oaks Association because there's those trees are just so special. I know from other hats I wear that Gary Oaks support upwards of 40 different species of moths and butterflies. They are such important parts of the local ecosystem. And Gerhard Park. I keep mispronouncing that. I'm sorry. Gerhard Park is, I'm so grateful to know that things are moving forward to make that park more accessible to the community, because it really is a gem. Mary Bell, thank you. And it really is. I had no idea there were trails to go and look down at Bell Creek and just be really, just a really special spot. So hopefully we can get folks more engaged with that. Thank you.
Any other committee reports? I do not have any, and not seeing Vicky's hand, so I think we are good to go. Alrighty, on to open council discussion. Yeah.
You don't mind if I ask Nick a question, do you? Nick, I had sent you an email about PSI. My neighbors want to know who in this town or around here does pavement servability index. It's a scale of 0 to 5.
You're going to love this answer.
Say, what?
So I'm not familiar with PSI in that term.
Okay.
What the city does is what Paul briefly touched on at the work session,
Right.
pavement condition index, and that's 0 to 100. So I know there's several financial firms that can kind of do long range planning financially for maintenance and replacement of roads, which might be in reference to the PSI you're talking about. But with what we do for the pavement condition index, there is no one local in the sense of being on the peninsula. We have a contract with Advanced Pavement Technologies. They're actually out of state. And so the only ones I was able to find when we were doing our survey, again, PCI 0 to 100, were out of state consultants, typically on the east coast, Midwest to East Coast, where there's a lot of salting of the streets and things like that.
Freezing and thawing and
Yeah.
freezing. Yeah.
Yep.
That I'm familiar with. I had never heard of what they wanted me to ask about was the pavement servability.
Yeah.
Serviceability.
Yep. And if maybe a few more details, I might be able to point you, if you want to schedule some time to talk about it. I know I've talked with several other HOAs looking for seeing if the city does rating, and we currently do not. That's something I would like to look into. But they were questioning their financial consultant on the cost, and that's where I came to learn that there's some firms in Seattle that help HOAs with financial planning, which is different. Their approach is different than what we do.
Okay. Thank you, though. I appreciate.
Anything else for open council discussion?
Yes, thank you. And I see Vicky's hand. Let's let Vicky talk first.
First, I want to apologize for being late. I was stuck in traffic on the way to Spokane. There were 18 road construction projects on the way here.
My God.
So good for new roads, but not good for travel. I did want to, I know it was on the consent agenda, but I did want to give a shout out to the members of the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee who were just reappointed. I started being council liaison to the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee in January, and I'm just very impressed with their knowledge and understanding of, tourism and the hotel business and all the bike things that we have going on. So I know when it goes on the consent agenda and we don't get to hear their names, but they're Marcia Macy, Beth Pratt, Marcella Stuchersky, and Namaste Staten. And they are really important to that committee and very knowledgeable. I also, Amy, I'm sorry for not being there in person for your last meeting, but I just want to say how much I appreciate all the work you've done with the clerk and all the updates you did recently to the codes, and also helping getting the records pieced together too. And we're going to miss you, but just wish you the best. And I don't see Anthony, but I'm sure he's there somewhere. And Anthony, I'm hoping he's staying in Squam. I don't know, but also really appreciate everything you've done for the city. Sorry. And then lastly, sorry for so much. August 31st is Overdose Awareness Day. Clown County is bringing together an event. I'll be bringing a proclamation to the next council meeting about it. I'm hoping that the city can get behind joining some of the helping organize a couple of the things that they're doing in Port Angeles that I would be interested to know if we can do in Squim. Is purple is the color for overdose awareness. So if there's a way that we can put some purple lights in different places on that day, I was thinking the totem pole out in the plaza there. And then also if there are purple flags we can put up. So just want to put that out there. I'll send an email to the city clerk with more information and what the committee is planning. but I would appreciate if anybody's interested, let me know. And if anybody wants to work with me on the proclamation, I also love to get some help. I'm over here in Spokane at the tribal, Washington State Tribal Opioid and Fentanyl Summit. So I've got lots of good help here too that I can rely on, but would love it if somebody wanted to at least review or add their thoughts. Thank you.
Harmony. Yeah.
If anyone else? Oh, you were waiting to go. Please go.
Oh, okay.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Paul's not here. We had a public comment at the last meeting with regards to somebody's concern for the well, Ms. Shaw. And I just wanted to express appreciation to Paul, but Matt, if you could do that on the record for his excellent response to that. And I think it shows that the council is responsive to public comment and the city staff pays attention and gets on those things. So thank you. I think it was a good example of a responsive dialogue between council and residents. So
We have a meeting this week with her as well.
excellent. Yep.
Thank you.
Next to surveying my three most important employee or customers is customer service. How do we just up that game coming from the private sector? So these emails and the whole staff, everybody's bought into that level of service. So thank you very much for recognizing it.
Alrighty, and I just had a quick comments, but I want to make sure everybody has made their comments. Okay. So first comment, I was able to volunteer at the Sister City Association booth each day for the Lavender Festival, and it was every single year. I am so blown away at how all of these different entities come together to create something amazing. And it's not just for tourists. I know a lot of locals are not super keen on the Lavender Festival, but I am one of them that is all about it. And I love taking my kids every single year. And it's just something that my family really enjoys doing. And so I'm so grateful to all of these organizations and all of these volunteers and everybody who comes together, our staff, all of our public works, all of our park staff, all of our communications team, just everybody works so hard for this one weekend. And everybody works so hard all year. And I'm so blown away. Okay. And my next comment, since this is our last meeting with Anthony and Amy, I just wanted to tell them, I'm not going to cry. Thank you so much for all of your hard work. Anthony, I know you're somewhere behind the curtain, but thank you so much for all of your hard work and all of you just work so hard and you put in so much effort, and you are both so inspiring, and we will miss you, and I wish you all the happiness in the world. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
All right. Up next, just for, Harmony. Yeah.
Okay, so ditto on what you just said. Before the meeting, I was talking to Anthony and he was helping me get back into my Surface. Thank you, Anthony. I learned something new every time I go and talk to him. And Matt and Fred, we have a super team. And Amy, you've been a rock star to work with. Thank you for being the clerk while me and Dan are coming on. And Nicole, I mean, like, I can speak for myself. You were just really a joy to work with. So thanks for making my newly elected official experience so rad. Yeah, we got some big shoes to fill around here. Okay. Really quick, I am honored to represent SQUIM at the first meeting of the inaugural Washington Collaborative Elected Leaders Institute, hosted by the AWC and Washington State University and the University of Washington. And there's other partners that I'm not bringing up right now, but it's a huge collaborative effort And that's in its name too. To bring counselors together across the state and really work on fine-tuning higher level skills on building partnerships and collaborating and facilitating and mediating discussions with folks and just improving the civic health of our state. So I'm honored. Drew Schwab is going to be joining me from Port Angeles. And it's in Spokane. So I was definitely, my interest was piqued. Vicki, as you mentioned, that it was a challenging drive across the state. So after the meeting, let's talk a little bit maybe about, maybe you can give me some pointers. And then, so I'm just really excited, looking forward to this experience. This is the first session of 5 between now and October 2nd. So it's just like a couple weekends here and there. The next one will be virtual, and then we'll be in Everett, and then it'll be virtual again, and then it'll finish at the Tri-Cities. So I look forward to bringing back a Cliff Notes edition of the resources and information that gets shared with me for the benefit of my fellow counselors, and as we all work towards the civic health of our state. So thank you. And that was what I had to bring.
All right. Thank you so much. Our next agenda planning meeting is Tuesday, August 6th. Is there anybody that knows this evening if they're able to go to that?
For the agenda meeting?
Yes. Okay, Kathy. Awesome. And our next regular meeting is August 12th. Friendly reminder that we only have one meeting in August. Okay.
And point of order, you just asked for a work session as well.
Yes. So that will be at the August 12th meeting too, I think. Or before the regular meeting. That's okay. All righty.
Sounds like we're gonna make that one count.
I will motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn?
Yeah. And a second from Dan. Everyone approve?
Yes. And thank
Yes.
you, Rachel.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. We are adjourned. Thank you so much, everyone.